Claude responded. The phone rang at 11:52 on a humid Tuesday night. The phone rang at 11:52 on a humid Tuesday night. I remember because I'd fallen asleep in the recliner with the ball game still murmuring on low, and the sound cut through my sleep like a siren. My back had been stiff all day, the kind of ache that settles into a man once he passes 60, so I hadn't even made it to bed. I almost let it ring through. Nobody calls that late with good news. Then I saw the name on the screen. Hannah. My daughter never called after 10. I answered before the second ring finished. Breathing, then a whisper. Dad. Something in her voice put me on my feet before I'd even decided to stand. I'd learned a long time ago, in another life, that silence is sometimes the only thing holding a person together, so I didn't rush her. I left, she said. I finally left. Another sound came through, sharp and close. Someone knocking, hard, rhythmic, the kind of knock that isn't asking permission. Hannah, I said quietly. Where are you? The laundromat on Route 9, the one by the pharmacy. I'm in the back by the machines. He followed me here. Locks on the door, I said. Not a question. Yes. Good. Stay on the phone with me. Keep breathing. A man's voice came through behind hers, muffled by a door but clear enough. Hannah, come on, don't do this. I just want to talk. I'd met him 4 times in 18 months. Derek. Good haircut, firm handshake, the kind of smile that arrives half a second before it should, like he'd rehearsed the timing. I never trusted a smile that showed up early. Dad, she whispered. I don't know what to do. You already did the hard part, I told her. You left. Now you wait. I'm coming. I'm scared. I know. Keep that door locked and keep talking to me. Don't hang up. I grabbed my truck keys off the hook by the door. My knees don't do what they used to, and getting into that old Silverado is its own small negotiation these days, but I was moving before I felt any of it. Out on the porch, the light was still burning, same as it had every night for the 4 years since Carol passed. She used to say a porch light was a promise you made to anybody who might need to find their way back. I never had the heart to turn it off, and some nights, driving home late, I understood exactly what she meant. Rain hadn't come yet, but the air had that thick, waiting feel to it, like the sky was deciding something. I pulled out of the driveway and pointed the truck toward Route 9, and Hannah stayed on the line the whole way, her breath catching every time Derek knocked again. He keeps saying he loves me, she said. Do you believe him? No, she said, and there was something almost surprised in her own voice, like she was hearing herself say it out loud for the first time. No, I don't. Then don't open that door for any reason. I should have left in February. Don't do that to yourself right now, I told her. Just breathe. I'm 4 minutes out. I pulled into the lot 11 minutes later. The drive stretched long by every red light in town conspiring against me. Derek was standing near the laundromat's side door, hands in his jacket pockets, looking like a man waiting for a table at a restaurant instead of a man who'd chased somebody into a building at midnight. When he saw my truck, he actually smiled wider. I climbed out slow. My knee complained. I've learned not to let people see that. Mr. Whitfield, he said, walking toward me with his hand half raised like we were old friends. Glad you're here. This is all just a big misunderstanding. I didn't answer. She's overreacting, he said. You know how she gets. I looked past him toward the glass door at the side of the building, then back at him. Not tonight, I said. His smile tightened at the corners, just slightly, the first honest thing his face had done all night. Sir, he said, couples fight. They do, I said. And sometimes people need space to cool off. But locking me out like I'm some kind of stalker, that's not fair to me. Ask her to come out. Then. I'm not going anywhere until she does. He blinked, like that answer hadn't been in the script. The side door opened. Hannah stepped out slowly, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her own ribs together. For 1 second, she looked exactly the way she did at 7 years old, standing in my bedroom doorway after a nightmare, and something in my chest folded in on itself. She saw me and crossed the lot in 4 fast steps, and I caught her the way I used to catch her off the bottom porch step when she jumped too soon. I'm sorry, she said into my shoulder. You've got nothing to apologize for. Derek took 1 step closer. Hannah, she flinched. Just a small movement, barely anything, but it told me more than an hour of conversation could have. I shifted so I was standing between them without making a show of it. You'll regret this, Derek said, quiet enough that it was meant only for me, soft enough to sound like concern if anyone else had heard it. It wasn't concern. I opened the truck door. "Get in, sweetheart." She climbed in without looking back. Derek stood in the parking lot, lit up orange under the sodium lights, and he didn't shout, didn't chase us, didn't do anything except watch. That stillness bothered me more than yelling would have. Halfway home, Hannah finally spoke again. "I thought I could fix things between us," she said. "You can't fix a man who doesn't think he's the problem," I told her. She stared out the window at the dark fields going by. "I didn't tell you how bad it got because I was embarrassed. I know. I thought you'd think less of me." I reached over and squeezed her hand once. "You made it out tonight," I said. "That's what matters. The rest we figure out tomorrow." When we turned into my driveway, the porch light was still glowing through the mist that had finally started to fall. Hannah managed a small smile. Mom always left that on. She did. We'd barely gotten inside when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened it before I could stop her. "You're going to wish you never got in that truck." She went white. I took the phone from her hand gently and read it twice, then looked up at that porch light burning steady against the rain, and I thought about how a man out there in the dark already believed fear belonged to him. He had no idea patience belonged to me. It always had. 29 years of it, in fact, though Hannah didn't know that part yet. By morning, the rain had cleared out and left the yard smelling like wet gravel and cut grass. Hannah slept in the guest room. I didn't sleep much. I sat at the kitchen table with my glasses low on my nose, her phone next to my coffee, and a yellow legal pad in front of me. The same kind I'd used for 30 years of casework, because some habits don't retire just because you do. I wrote down the time she called, the name of the laundromat, the exact wording of the message, before my memory started rounding off the edges the way memory does. At 6:15, Hannah came into the kitchen wearing one of Carol's old cardigans from the hall closet. It hung loose on her shoulders. "You kept that," she said. "Couldn't bring myself to give it away." She sat across from me, pulled the sleeves over her hands, and for a while neither of us said anything. The coffee maker clicked off. A cardinal was making a racket somewhere out past the fence line. Finally, she noticed the legal pad. "You're writing it down?" "Yes." "I don't want this to become some big thing, Dad." I set my glasses down. "Sweetheart, a man just sent you a threat in writing. I know what he sent. Then it already is a big thing." She looked away, and that's when I saw it settle over her. Not fear this time, but shame. The quiet kind that makes a person apologize for having been hurt in the first place. I hated Derek for that more than for the message itself. "He didn't start out like this," she said. "They never do," I said, before I could stop myself. "It came out flatter than I meant it to." She rubbed her thumb along the rim of her coffee mug. "At first he was almost too sweet. Brought lunch to my classroom. Remembered things I mentioned once. Made me feel like somebody was finally paying attention." I nodded. That part mattered to me, hearing it. Men like Derek don't usually start with locked doors and threats. They start with flowers and just enough kindness to make everything after it feel like weather instead of a choice. "Then he said my sister was jealous of us," she went on. "Then he said my coworkers gossiped too much. Then he wanted my passwords because couples shouldn't keep secrets from each other." She laughed, short and bitter. "I run a classroom of 26 second graders, Dad. I'm supposed to notice when something's wrong. And I missed it in my own life." "You didn't miss it," I said. He moved the line an inch at a time. That's the whole method. That got to her. Not loud tears, just two that she wiped away fast, embarrassed to have let them out at all. "He checked my bank account," she said. "Not constantly. Just often enough that I knew he could. Asked why I'd spent $9 at the coffee shop on 5th. Asked why I'd gotten gas on the east side instead of near the school. I stayed quiet. There's a temptation in moments like that to want to stand up and roar. But if you roar too soon, the person in front of you stops telling you the truth. So I let her keep going. "He made me feel like I was the dramatic one," she said. He'd say, "Hannah, you're 31. You're not 22 anymore. Stop acting like this is a big deal." Or he'd say, "Your dad babied you your whole life. That's why you don't understand real commitment." My hand tightened around my mug without my telling it to. She noticed. "Please don't be mad at me." "I'm not mad at you," I said. "I'm mad that I didn't ask more questions sooner." "You're asking now," she said quietly. I took a breath, and then I said something I hadn't planned on saying that morning. Not yet anyway. "I know men like Derek," I told her. "And I mean that in a specific way." She looked up. "What way?" "I was a federal probation officer for 29 years, I said. Before that, 3 years as a corrections officer. I've sat across a table from more men like him than I can count. The kitchen went very still. She blinked at me like I'd told her I kept a second house in another state. You told me you worked in an office downtown, she said. I did. That office happened to be the federal courthouse. Mom knew. Your mother knew everything. I didn't want that job sitting at our dinner table every night. You deserved a childhood that didn't smell like case files. She sat back, and I could see her rearranging something in her head, the way a grown child does when she finds a room inside a parent she never knew was there. Did you deal with men exactly like him? She asked. Plenty, I said. Men like Derek don't want love. They want control. And the second that control slips even a little, they call it betrayal, and they punish you for it. Her phone buzzed on the table between us. We both looked down. Unknown number. A photograph this time, her school's front entrance, taken from across the street. The caption underneath read, "Easy to find you here every morning." She pushed back from the table so fast the chair legs shrieked against the floor. I can't go to work today. You can, I said. And you will, because today we make sure it's safe for you too. By 9 that morning, I had Officer Marisol Reyes standing in my driveway. I'd known Marisol for almost 15 years, since she was a rookie patrol officer with more nerve than experience. Now she carried herself like someone who'd absorbed a decade and a half of other people's worst days and learned to hold it steady. She looked over the messages on Hannah's phone with her arms crossed. I'm taking this seriously, Walt, she said. Figured you would. But I'm not cutting you any slack because you used to wear a badge yourself. Wouldn't want you to, I said. Hannah stood beside me, arms wrapped tight around herself. Marisol softened when she turned to her. Miss Whitfield, save everything. Don't respond to him. Don't delete anything. If he shows up anywhere near you, you call it in immediately. Understand? Hannah nodded. Marisol glanced at the house. You got cameras up? Not yet, I said. Today's a good day to fix that. By early afternoon, my son Marcus pulled in with a toolbox, 2 folding chairs, and a bag of barbecue from the place off the highway he swore was better than anything in 3 counties. Marcus worked construction most of his life and moved like a man who'd paid for it in every joint, but he could still wire a camera system faster than anybody I knew. Heard we're setting up surveillance, he said, climbing out. Brought lunch. Hannah managed her first real smile of the day. It wasn't much, but I took it. Our neighbor, Rosalind Aguirre, came over a while later. She'd spent 22 years as a 911 dispatcher before retiring, and she had the particular calm of someone who'd talked 1,000 strangers through their worst 5 minutes on the phone. She carried a notebook and a thermos and had clearly already made 3 separate lists in her head. Put 1 camera on that oak tree's blind spot, she told Marcus, pointing. That side gate goes dark after sundown otherwise. Marcus looked at me. She always like this? Always, I said. And correct about 90% of it, Rosalind said without looking up. For 2 hours, my yard turned into a quiet little operation. Marcus mounted cameras. Rosalind checked angles on her phone. I walked the property line, noting where headlights would sweep and where a man might stand, thinking the dark made him invisible. Hannah trailed behind me at one point in her socks, arms crossed against the evening chill. You really think he'll come here? She asked. I think he wants you to believe he might, I said. That's not really an answer. No, I said, but it's the truth. That night we ate on the porch, paper plates balanced on our knees. Marcus told a story about dropping a 2x4 on his foot in 2003 and trying to convince his foreman he could still finish the shift. Rosalind laughed. Hannah almost did, for a few minutes, and for those few minutes Derek didn't own the air around us. The next morning I opened the front door just after sunrise into a cold mist, sitting low over the grass. Something near the top step caught the light, small and silver. My stomach went tight before my mind caught up to why. I bent down slow, knee aching, and picked it up with 2 fingers. A thin gold bracelet, the clasp snapped clean through. I recognized it instantly. I'd given it to Hannah the day she got her teaching certificate, and she'd worn it under her sleeve at the ceremony so it wouldn't show in photos, though it showed anyway, and Carol had cried through every single picture. Behind me, Hannah said, Dad. I turned. She saw the bracelet in my palm and all the color went out of her face. He'd been on my property, not shouting, not knocking, just close enough to leave something behind as a message. The pattern with men like this is always the same, I thought, standing there in the mist. He tests a boundary quietly, and then he waits to see if anyone's willing to enforce it. By 8 that morning, Rosalind had the porch camera footage pulled up on her laptop at my kitchen table, one hand on the mouse, coffee she'd reheated twice and hadn't touched once. Hannah stood behind her in Carol's cardigan, arms wrapped around herself. Marcus leaned against the counter eating toast. I stood by the sink and watched the screen. There, Rosalind said, and paused the footage. The image was grainy and gray, but clear enough. At 2:47 in the morning, a dark pickup rolled slowly past the driveway, disappeared for half a minute, then came back with its headlights off. A figure got out near the mailbox, hood up, and crossed the yard like he'd studied the layout beforehand. Hannah made a small sound. "You don't have to watch this," Rosalind told her. "Yes, I do," Hannah said. The figure walked up the porch steps, set something down, and stood there. That was the part that bothered me most. He didn't rush. He stood in the glow of that porch light for close to 10 seconds, staring at my front door, like he wanted us to know for certain he'd been there. Marcus stopped chewing. "Well," he said, "that's not a man trying to win his girlfriend back." "No," I said. "That's a man building pressure." Hannah looked at me. "What does that mean?" "It means he wants you scared enough to run back to him before he has to do anything louder than this." She sat down slowly. Rosalind closed the laptop halfway. "Walt," she said, "you thinking what I'm thinking?" "I'm thinking he's done this to somebody before me." Hannah looked between us. "You don't know that?" "No," I said, "but men like Derek don't usually invent this behavior from nothing." That sentence was the one that started the paper trail. I spent the rest of that morning doing what people imagine retired federal officers do in dramatic fashion, and what actually looks unbearably boring from the outside. I searched public court records, old civil filings, address histories, anything legal and public and slow. Hannah sat at the far end of the table writing down every incident she could remember. The first time he'd asked for her passwords, the first time he'd joked about following her home from work, the night he'd put his fist through his own drywall and told her she'd made him do it. Every so often she'd stop writing, remember something else, and look ashamed all over again. "Put it down anyway," I told her gently, when she said it sounded stupid. At 11:30, a name surfaced. Priya Desai, Millbrook. A protective order petition filed 4 years earlier, withdrawn 2 weeks after filing. Withdrawn doesn't mean it was false. Sometimes withdrawn just means somebody got scared. Derek's old address history put him 2 streets over from Priya's apartment complex during that exact window. Not proof of anything by itself. Enough to ask a question, though. Rosalind still had contacts from her dispatch years who knew people who knew things. Nobody broke any rules. Nobody shared anything they weren't supposed to. But by late afternoon, we had a phone number tied to a small photography business Priya had once run. "You're going to call her?" Hannah asked, watching me write the number down. "No," I said. "You're not ready for that conversation yet, and she may not want to have it at all." "So what do? We asked. Once, politely. Priya didn't answer the first call or the second. At 6 that evening, she texted back, "Who is this?" I wrote carefully. "My name is Walter Whitfield. My daughter recently left a relationship with Derek Voss. Your name came up in a public filing. I won't contact you again if you'd rather not talk. But if you're willing, it might help keep my daughter safe." 3 minutes passed. Then 5. Then the phone buzzed. "Is she safe right now?" I looked at Hannah. "She wants to know if you're okay." Hannah swallowed and nodded. I typed back, "Yes, she's with me." The next message came almost immediately. "We can meet tomorrow. Not at my place. Diner on Route 40, the one with the blue sign. 10 a.m. Bring another woman with you. I don't meet men. I don't know alone anymore." Rosalind read it over my shoulder and nodded once. Smart woman. The diner sat off a 2-lane road between a tire shop and a place selling firewood by the cord. It smelled like bacon grease and old coffee, and a waitress called everybody Han whether she'd met them before or not. Priya arrived 7 minutes late, a thin woman in her late 30s in a green rain jacket buttoned to her throat. She paused in the doorway and scanned the room the way somebody does when they've learned danger doesn't always announce itself. Rosalind lifted a hand. Priya came over but didn't sit right away. "Which one's your daughter?" she asked me. Hannah raised her hand slightly. Priya looked at her for a long moment. Something on her face shifted, not pity exactly. Recognition. She slid into the booth across from us. "Did he take your phone yet?" she asked Hannah. Hannah's eyes filled. "He tried." Priya nodded like that answer confirmed three other things at once. He's wonderful at first, she said, stirring sugar into coffee she never drank. Makes you feel like you're the only person who's ever really understood him. Then he starts correcting your life, your clothes, your friends, your tone of voice. Hannah stared at the table. Did he ever tell you that you were too sensitive? Priya asked. All the time, Hannah said. Did he ever say your father was controlling you, that your dad was the reason you couldn't be a real partner to him? Hannah looked up fast. Yes. He always needs somebody to make into the villain, Priya said, and looked at me. I didn't respond. I wanted every word in that conversation to belong to her. She told us Derek had done the same thing to her years earlier. The gifts, the apologies, the isolation, then the threats. When she finally tried to leave, he told mutual friends she was unstable, posted vague things online about being the victim of an unhinged woman. I filed for a protective order, she said. Then I withdrew it. Why? Hannah asked. Priya's hand tightened around her spoon. He sent me a photo of my cat sitting in my own backyard. Then a photo of my mother walking into her church. Rosalind muttered something under her breath. Priya gave a small, humorless smile. Exactly, she said. Hannah started crying quietly. The waitress came by and pretended not to notice while refilling cups. Priya reached across the table and put her hand over Hannah's. You're not crazy, she said. That's the first thing you need to hear. I looked out at the road and felt something go cold and settled in my chest. Derek wasn't just angry. He was practiced. That night he drove past the house again, slow and unbothered, headlights sweeping across Hannah's window and holding there a beat too long. I stood in the dark living room, one hand on the back of the couch, every old instinct telling me to walk out there and let him see exactly who he was dealing with. That was precisely what he wanted, though. A reaction. A clip. A witness who only saw the last 5 seconds of whatever story he decided to tell about it. So I stayed put. My knee throbbed. I swallowed 2 aspirin with cold coffee and let the camera keep recording. At 11 that night, Hannah's phone lit up with a video. It showed her from earlier that day, walking to her car outside the school, wiping her eyes. The caption read, "She still needs me. I'm coming to get her tomorrow." Hannah looked at me, terrified and worn thin. I looked toward the porch. The light was already on. Then tomorrow, I said, he can meet everybody. Every light on the porch was burning before the sun had fully gone down the next evening. Not for show, so every camera would see clean. Marcus carried 2 folding chairs out of the garage. When I retired, he said, setting one down next to mine, I figured excitement meant finding a decent sale on motor oil. Life had other plans, I said. Across the yard, Rosalind adjusted the angle on her own porch camera without hiding what she was doing. Neither was I. If Derek wanted an audience, he was going to get one. Hannah came out carrying a tray of iced tea, steadier than she'd been the day before, though not by much. You don't have to stay out here, I told her. I know, she said. I'm done hiding inside. I've done that for almost 2 years. That sentence stayed with me the rest of the night. At 7:40, Officer Reyes parked half a block down, close enough to respond fast, far enough that nobody could claim she'd shown up to intimidate anyone. Expecting company? She asked, walking over. I think so. You armed? My coffee's hot, I said. I'll take that as a no. It is. She looked around the yard. Marcus, Rosalind, Hannah, 3 cameras, all visible, all legal. Good setup, she said. Wasn't built overnight, I said. If he steps onto the property after being told to leave, she told Hannah, you call it out clearly. Understood? Hannah nodded. And don't touch him, Marisol said to me. Wasn't planning on it. I know you weren't, she said, and walked back toward her cruiser. At 8:15, headlights turned onto the street. Hannah stiffened. Go inside if you want, I told her. I'm staying, she said. The truck rolled up slow and stopped at the end of the driveway, engine idling. Nobody got out for almost 30 seconds. Then Derek stepped down, jeans, a clean button-down, phone already raised and recording. Evening, he called out. Nobody answered. He started up the walk, still smiling, still filming. Hannah, he said. She didn't respond. I just came to talk. Marcus leaned toward me. Every man who says that means everybody else is about to do the listening, he murmured. Derek reached the bottom step and turned his phone to catch us all in frame. Look at this, he said loudly. Her father organized an ambush. He laughed. Never seen this many retirees in one driveway. Marcus raised a hand. Son, he said, I've had a hip replaced that scared me worse than you. Derek ignored it, turning back to me. Mr. Whitfield, you've been telling people lies about me. No, I said. You've been contacting people, trying to ruin my name. Yes. I looked him straight in the eye. I've been collecting facts. Something flickered across his face and disappeared behind the smile again. Hannah, he said, softer now. You know this isn't who your dad really is. Hannah stood up. Her knees shook, but her voice didn't. You need to leave, she said. He kept his eyes on me instead, like she hadn't spoken. You're scaring her, he said. No, I said. She was already scared. That happened before I got involved. He climbed the first step. I just need 5 minutes. No. Another step. I deserve to explain myself. No. A third step. You can't keep her from me forever. My voice stayed level. You can walk out of here tonight a free man, I told him. Or you can stand here and let every camera on this property, including the one in your own hand, record you finishing the job of ruining yourself. For the first time all evening, his confidence slipped, just slightly. He caught it fast and covered it with a laugh. You think you've got me trapped, he said. I don't think anything, I said. I just watch. He looked around, Rosalind on her porch, Marcus in his chair, Hannah by the door, 2 neighbors who'd quietly stepped outside after hearing raised voices. Nobody had shouted. Nobody had threatened him. It wasn't an ambush. It was witnesses. You people actually planned this, he said. We had time, Marcus said. Derek took one more step. His foot crossed onto the porch itself. I stood, slow, knee complaining the whole way up, and pointed toward the sidewalk. You're trespassing now, I said. He smiled. Really? I haven't done anything. You were asked to leave. He lifted his phone closer to my face. This crazy old man threatening me, he said into the camera, grinning. Officer Reyes was already walking up, unhurried, professional. Evening, she said. Derek spun toward her. Perfect timing, he said. I was hoping you'd get here. I've been here, she said. He smiled wider. Good, he said, then looked at me. I told you nobody would believe you. He reached into his jacket, slow, careful, not for a weapon, for a second phone. He held it up between 2 fingers. Funny thing, he said. I recorded Mr. Whitfield threatening me 2 nights ago. I figured I'd need it eventually. He handed the phone to Marisol. I didn't move, didn't protest, didn't explain anything. You okay? Marcus asked quietly. Yes, I said. You don't seem worried. I've learned something over the years, I said. When a man believes he's already won, he stops checking for the truth. Marisol pressed play. The porch went silent. My own voice came through the speaker, static-laced. I'll deal with you my way, followed by Derek's voice, satisfied. You've pushed this far enough. A pause. You won't like what happens next. Hannah looked at me, stunned. Dad. Marisol held up a hand without lowering the phone. Let's hear the rest of it. There isn't much left, Derek said, smiling. The recording ended. Silence held over the porch. A truck slowed on the road outside before moving on. That's your voice, Marisol said to me. It is, I said. Derek spread his hands. I told you, he said to her. He's the one who threatened me. You want to respond? Marisol asked me. I do, I said, and reached into my shirt pocket for a small flash drive. Derek frowned. What is that? My copy, I said. My porch cameras record audio near the front door. All of it. His expression shifted. Barely. Convenient, he said. It is, I agreed, and handed the drive to Rosalind, who plugged it into her laptop on the porch table. The same conversation appeared on screen. This is the original, Marisol said. Yes. Anybody can edit a file, Derek said, arms folding tighter. So can you, Rosalind said, not looking up. Let's just play it. The first several seconds matched his version exactly, same voices, same background hum. Then it kept going past where his recording had cut off. Derek's voice came through clearer. Go ahead, say something angry, it said. A pause. Come on, old man, tell me what you're really thinking, my own voice answered, flat and calm. I'm thinking you should leave my property. Derek laughed on the recording. No, that's boring. Another pause, then his voice again. Say you'll handle me. I remembered that call now, him needling at me for 10 straight minutes trying to bait something usable out of me. The recording continued, my voice steady. I'll handle you my way. His smile on the porch started to fade, because this time everyone heard what came after it. My way means every camera, every police report, and every legal option this state allows me. Hannah covered her mouth. Marcus muttered, well, there it is. The recording kept going. Nobody wants to hear that part, Derek's voice said, irritated now. A pause. Then mine again? You've pushed this far enough. His version had ended there. The original didn't, because my daughter deserves to live without checking over her shoulder every day. Marisol looked up. Nobody said anything. Back it up 10 seconds, I told Rosalind. She did. We listened again. This time Marisol frowned. Stop, she said. Play that section again. Right before the cut, a radio had been playing softly in my kitchen, a weather report, rain moving through the valley overnight. In Derek's version, the same spot jumped straight to clear skies expected tomorrow. Interesting, Marisol said. Derek shrugged. Could have been a different station, he said. Could have been, Marisol agreed. But a live weather report doesn't skip 14 hours in half a second, Marcus chuckled. Weather ain't that fast, he said. Nobody laughed along with him. Derek shifted his weight. I don't know what that proves, he said. You forgot to trim that part clean, Marisol told him. That's what it proves. I didn't edit anything, he said. You want to keep saying that, she asked. He opened his mouth and closed it again. A car pulled up then, a gray sedan. Hannah looked over. I know that car, she said. A woman stepped out carrying a folder, Denise Calloway, the assistant principal at Hannah's school. Sorry, I'm running late, she said, nodding to Marisol. You have something for us? Marisol asked. Denise glanced at Derek before answering. Mr. Voss came to our building 3 separate times after Miss Whitfield asked him not to. I was bringing her lunch, Derek said quickly. Denise didn't look at him. Our security footage shows him parked across from the entrance for over an hour last Thursday, she said, handing Marisol several printed stills. Hannah stared at them. I never knew about this, she said. You weren't supposed to, Denise said gently. One of our staff noticed the same vehicle showing up too often. This is ridiculous, Derek said, looking around now, his voice climbing for the first time. Another car pulled up. Priya climbed out, hesitating at the edge of the driveway before walking forward. Marisol looked surprised. Miss Desai, I'd like to make a statement, Priya said. Derek actually stepped back. I think you've got me confused with someone, he said. No, Priya said. I made that mistake myself, once. She walked over and stood beside Hannah, not in front of her. Beside her. He isolated me from my whole family, she said. Recorded our fights, cut the tape, told everybody I was the unstable one. Marisol wrote in her notebook without looking up. Derek's phone buzzed in his hand. He glanced down without thinking, and his face changed. His live stream was still running. Hundreds of comments scrolling past. People had watched the entire thing unfold in real time. His attempt to paint an angry old man had turned into a live broadcast of his own story falling apart in front of strangers. He ended the stream fast. Too late. Marisol stepped forward. Derek Voss, she said. Based on what I've observed tonight along with prior reports, I'm placing you under arrest pending charges of trespassing, harassment, intimidation, and evidence tampering. Additional charges may follow. You can't be serious, he said. I am, she said. This old man set me up, Derek said. I finally spoke. No, I said. Cameras don't set anybody up. She turned him around and cuffed him. Hannah started crying quietly, not because he was being arrested, but because for the first time in longer than I'd realized, she wasn't wondering whether anyone would believe her. As Marisol walked him to the cruiser, Derek looked back once, his smile returning smaller now, more desperate than confident. This isn't over, he said. The door shut. Taillights faded down the street. 2 weeks later, I sat at that same kitchen table when the mail came. Between the bills and a grocery flyer sat a thick envelope from a law office downtown. Hannah looked over my shoulder. What is it? She asked. A civil demand letter. Derek intended to sue me for harassment and emotional distress. Hannah's shoulders sank. Oh no, she said. I read the last page, folded it neatly, and found myself smiling. You're not worried, Marcus asked. No, I said, because he finally put everything in writing. 3 weeks after that, I stood outside the county courthouse with coffee gone cold in my hand. Hannah stood beside me in a navy blazer she usually saved for parent conferences. Nervous, not frightened. There's a real difference between the two. Fear makes you want to run. Nerves mean you're staying to see it through. "You okay?" I asked. "I think so," she said. "You don't have to be perfect in there," I told her. "You only have to tell the truth." "I can do that," she said. And for the first time in months, I believed it completely. Derek arrived in a gray suit, fresh haircut, polished shoes, the picture of a reasonable man if you didn't know the rest of it. He saw us, adjusted his tie, and walked in without a word. Maybe his lawyer had finally convinced him charm wasn't evidence. Inside, the courtroom felt smaller than television makes it look. Wooden benches, quiet murmurs, stacks of paper, and people waiting patiently for ordinary justice to do its ordinary, unglamorous work. The hearing ran almost 3 hours, not because anyone raised their voice, but because truth takes time when you build it one document at a time. Derek's attorney argued I'd orchestrated a harassment campaign against his client. Then our attorney stood, calm, and opened 3 thick binders one at a time, printed messages, photographs, and timestamps, then transcripts and certified public records. Facts don't sound dramatic. Stacked together, though, they get heavy fast. Rosalind testified first, explaining the camera system, the automatic timestamps, the unbroken recording chain. Derek's lawyer asked if she disliked his client. "I didn't know him well enough to dislike him," she said. "I only know what the cameras recorded." Marisol testified next, explained she'd treated both men the same throughout, that knowing me for years had made her more careful, not less. That answer seemed to land with the judge. It certainly landed with me. Then Priya took the stand, calmer than the day we'd met her, still nervous but no longer hiding. She described the pattern in full. The gifts, the isolation, the edited tapes, the attempts to make everyone else look unstable. Derek never once looked at her. Finally, Hannah's name was called. She glanced at me. I nodded. She didn't need me to answer for her anymore. She walked up alone, hands trembling as she took the oath, but her voice steadied the moment she began. She told the court about checking her phone every few minutes because he expected instant replies, about apologizing for things she hadn't done, about losing touch with friends because explaining him had become exhausting, about locking herself in a laundromat bathroom believing she had nowhere left to go. Nobody interrupted. Nobody asked why she hadn't left sooner. She was finally allowed to tell the whole thing straight through. "What changed?" our attorney asked her at the end. She thought about it, then smiled through tears. "Leaving wasn't the hardest part," she said. "The hardest part was believing anyone would believe me." She looked at me, then back at the judge. "I'm not afraid to say it out loud anymore." Something loosened in my chest that I'd been carrying since 11:52 that Tuesday night. Not relief exactly. Something steadier than that. After a short recess, the judge returned and spoke plainly. No anger, no sympathy, just findings. He called the evidence of harassment, surveillance, and manipulated recordings credible and well documented. The edited audio damaged Derek's claims badly. The independent testimony strengthened the pattern beyond doubt. He granted continued protective measures, ordered no contact of any kind, and noted that criminal proceedings would continue on a separate track. Derek lowered his head. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked like a man who'd run out of stories to tell. Outside, there were no reporters, no cameras. Life kept moving the way it does. A delivery truck rumbled past. Somebody laughed across the parking lot. "It's over," Hannah said on the courthouse steps. "The legal part isn't completely finished yet," I told her. "I know," she said, and wrapped her arms around me. "Thank you." "You don't owe me that," I said. "I do," she said. I looked at her. "You did the hardest part yourself," I said. "I just stood beside you while you did it." That Saturday, we fixed the loose railing on the front porch together. Marcus supervised from a lawn chair while doing almost none of the actual work. "I've reached the age," he announced, "where giving advice burns fewer calories than using tools." Rosalind rolled her eyes from her own porch. "That's because you haven't given good advice since the Clinton administration." "I gave one excellent piece of advice in 2011, he said. "What was it?" I asked. "Told Walt not to buy that recliner." Hannah laughed. "He bought it anyway." "And it's still ugly," Rosalind called back. For the first time in months, the laughter sounded completely ordinary. Nobody was forcing it, and nobody needed it to cover anything up. It simply belonged there again. As we finished the last bolt, I leaned against the post to rest my knee, Hannah noticed. You should let me finish that, she said. Got a few good years left in me yet, I told her. I know, she said. I don't need you to fight every battle for me anymore. No, I said. You already learned how to fight your own. She looked up at the porch light above us. That evening, once everyone had gone home, I carried 2 glasses of iced tea out onto the porch, one for me, and one I set quietly beside Carol's empty rocking chair. Cricket started up somewhere past the fence line. The neighborhood settled into another ordinary night, and the porch light burned steady over the steps, just like it had every evening, since my wife asked me never to let it go dark. For a long time, I believed protecting the people I loved meant standing between them and whatever danger came. Now, I understand it sometimes means standing beside them until they're steady enough to stand alone. If you've ever had to stay calm while someone you love was in danger, you already know how hard that stillness can be. And if this story reminded you that patience and the truth still count for something in this world, I'm grateful you spent this time with me tonight. Claude responded, sometimes love isn't about fighting every battle for someone. It's about staying close enough that they never have to face one alone. Sometimes love isn't about fighting every battle for someone. It's about staying close enough that they never have to face one alone. A father's quiet patience, a neighbor's watchful eye, a stranger's honest warning, none of it looked heroic in the moment, but together it gave one woman back her voice. Real strength often looks like showing up again and again until someone else remembers how to stand. A small note for you. This story was written and fictionalized by AI purely for entertainment, though we hope its gentle life lessons still found its way to your heart.